At 5:12 local time in the Strait of Hormuz, the sea looks almost peaceful from the flight deck. The first light of morning stretches across the water in thin ribbons of orange and gray. Tankers move slowly along the shipping lanes, their silhouettes dark and heavy against the horizon. A U.S. aircraft carrier moves through the narrow passage at a steady 18 knots, its escort ships holding disciplined positions ahead and astern. On the surface, it feels like a routine transit. Nothing seems out of place. But 40 feet below the flight deck, inside the carrier's Combat Information Center, that sense of calm disappears in an instant. A sonar technician leans closer to his screen. Something has appeared within the acoustic spectrum. At first, it seems like background interference, just a faint vibration hidden beneath the familiar hum of the Gulf. Civilian propellers, water currents sweeping across the seabed, the usual acoustic clutter of shallow water. Then the signal sharpens. One contact, bearing 217. Slow speed. The operator marks it automatically. Possible submarine signature. No one reacts right away. The Strait of Hormuz is crowded, and sonar contacts come and go constantly. Then a second trace emerges on bearing 263, deeper in the water and moving at around 6 knots. Now the sonar supervisor steps forward. Seconds later, a third line forms across the display. Then a fourth. Then, almost immediately, a fifth. 5 separate submerged objects. 5 independent propulsion signatures, all moving beneath the carrier strike group. The room falls silent. The CIC watch officer moves toward the console. Confirm classification. The sonar team begins cross-checking acoustic fingerprints, blade patterns, propeller timing, and engine vibration signatures. The answer comes back fast. Diesel-electric submarines. And not just any submarines. The acoustic library aligns them with known Iranian naval platforms. 3 Ghadir-class submarines. 2 larger Fateh-class attack submarines. Inside the CIC, the tactical display redraws the situation in real time. One submarine sits to the northwest, another to the southwest, one to the east, one to the south, and one directly ahead of the carrier's projected path through the strait. The pattern becomes obvious almost immediately. They are not simply passing through, they are maneuvering, circling. The watch officer picks up the phone. Bridge, CIC, multiple submerged contacts detected. Possible Iranian submarines. Up on the bridge, the officer of the deck listens without interrupting. How many? A brief pause. 5. That number changes everything. In the shallow waters of the Persian Gulf, submarines are among Iran's most serious naval assets. Small, quiet, and exceptionally well-suited to the tight geography of the Strait of Hormuz, they can turn confined waters into a major tactical challenge. Seconds later, the carrier strike group commander receives the update. His response is immediate. Set anti-submarine posture. Across the strike group, systems begin to activate. Escort destroyers deploy their towed sonar arrays, long cables slipping silently into the water behind them. The sensors extend beneath the thermocline, where submarine noise can travel farther and detection becomes more effective. On the carrier's flight deck, deck crews rush toward waiting helicopters. 2 MH-60R Seahawk helicopters sit armed and ready. Within minutes, they will be airborne, lowering dipping sonar into the water to search for the submerged contacts. Below the surface, the Iranian submarines keep moving. Slow, deliberate, controlled. Their diesel engines stay silent while electric motors carry them forward through the shallow Gulf. By 5:18, the sonar picture grows clearer. Distances update across the tactical screen. The nearest submarine is now 18 nautical miles from the carrier. Another is approaching from the southeast. The 2 Fateh-class boats remain deeper, holding position behind the formation like guides directing the smaller Ghadir submarines ahead. It is clearly coordinated, and every officer inside the Combat Information Center understands what that means. 5 submarines positioned across multiple angles, 5 possible torpedo approaches in narrow water, where maneuvering room is limited and shipping traffic crowds every lane. The carrier continues on its steady course through the Strait of Hormuz, its massive hull displacing thousands of tons of water with quiet force. From the outside, nothing has changed. No alarms, no visible tension. But inside the command center, the tactical map tells a very different story. 5 submerged contacts, 5 silent hunters moving beneath the strike group, and the circle around the U.S. aircraft carrier is slowly tightening. By 5:27 local time, the tactical display continues to evolve. What began as scattered acoustic traces has now become a clear pattern. The 5 submarine contacts are no longer drifting independently. They are maneuvering with precision. Bearing changes appear slowly across the chart. Each Iranian submarine adjusts its course by only a few degrees at a time. Changes so subtle they are almost invisible unless you watch the screen second by second. But the geometry is unmistakable. They are forming a perimeter. One contact remains northwest of the strike group, holding steady at low speed. Another slides southward, positioning itself near the carrier's projected route. The two larger Fateh-class submarines stay deeper and farther out, maintaining separation while the smaller Ghadir boats move closer. Inside the CIC, the anti-submarine warfare coordinator studies the formation. 5 submarines, 5 sectors, a classic multi-angle encirclement. The carrier cannot maneuver aggressively here. At its narrowest point, the Strait of Hormuz is barely 21 nautical miles wide, and commercial tanker traffic fills the shipping lanes like a moving wall of steel. Sharp turns at high speed are not realistic. The Iranian commanders know that, which is exactly why the submarines are closing now. At 5:29, one of the sonar operators speaks again. Contact Sierra 2, changing depth. The acoustic signature shifts as the submarine moves beneath the warmer surface layer. The thermocline acts like an underwater curtain, bending sonar waves and making detection more difficult. The move is deliberate. They are trying to disappear. But the U.S. Navy has spent generations tracking submarines, and the strike group commander gives the next order. Deploy the helicopters! Up on the flight deck, the engines of 2 MH-60R Seahawks roar to life. Rotor blades begin slicing through the humid Gulf air as deck crews pull the chocks away. Seconds later, the first helicopter lifts off, rising over the carrier's island before banking toward the nearest submarine contact. The second Seahawk launches moments after it. Each helicopter carries dipping sonar, sonar buoys, and lightweight anti-submarine torpedoes built specifically for shallow water combat. Above them, an E-2D Hawkeye circles higher in the sky, its rotating radar dome sweeping the area as it coordinates the expanding anti-submarine screen. Below, the Iranian submarines continue their approach. By 5:31, the distances update again. The nearest submarine is now 14 nautical miles away and still closing. The sonar operators begin identifying individual propeller patterns. The smaller Ghadir-class boats produce a sharper rhythm, their compact propellers cutting more quickly through the water. The Fateh-class submarines sound different, deeper and heavier, their propulsion signatures echoing more slowly across the acoustic spectrum. 2 separate submarine classes working together. That detail confirms something important inside the CIC. This is not a random patrol. It is a coordinated naval maneuver. At 5:33, one of the escort destroyers accelerates ahead of the carrier. Its hull cuts through the water at nearly 25 knots while its towed sonar array trails hundreds of meters behind, sinking deep beneath the surface and listening for even the faintest mechanical sound. Another destroyer moves toward the southern flank, tightening the protective screen around the carrier. The helicopters begin dropping sonar buoys. Each buoy hits the water and activates immediately, transmitting acoustic data back to the strike group through encrypted links. Within minutes, an expanding underwater sensor network takes shape. The Iranian submarines are no longer moving unseen. They are being tracked. At 5:34, a sudden acoustic spike flashes across the sonar display. One of the Ghadir-class submarines has increased speed. Its electric motor pushes it forward at nearly 12 knots, unusually fast for a submarine trying to remain hidden. The sonar supervisor leans closer. The distance updates again, 9 miles. That number captures everyone's attention. In modern submarine warfare, 9 miles is no longer far away. It is well within a serious engagement envelope. The strike group commander watches the tactical display in silence as the 5 submarine icons continue tightening their positions. 5 underwater contacts, 5 potential torpedo vectors. And somewhere below the surface, inside those steel hulls, Iranian crews are listening to the same ocean. Listening for the carrier, waiting for the critical moment. At 5:35, another sonar technician suddenly raises his voice. Possible tube activity. The room freezes, because if a torpedo tube has just opened beneath the waters of the Strait of Hormuz, the next sound they hear could change everything. By 5:38 local time, inside the Combat Information Center, every sound matters. The sonar operator keeps his eyes fixed on the display. The signal that appeared seconds earlier is still there. Faint, but unmistakable. Metal shifting inside a pressure hull. Hydraulic movement, a short mechanical vibration traveling through the water. The sonar supervisor doesn't hesitate. Possible torpedo tube opening. Heads turn toward the central display. The 5 submarine contacts remain in place, but one of them, the northern Ghadir-class boat, has clearly changed posture. Its speed has increased slightly. Its heading now points directly toward the carrier's track. Distance, 8.7 nautical miles, still beyond visual range but alarmingly close underwater. On the bridge above, the officer of the deck receives the report. Torpedo tube activity detected. He repeats it calmly to the carrier strike group commander. There is no panic in his voice, only procedure. The US Navy trains for moments exactly like this. The commander gives the order. Prepare evasive maneuver. Below the flight deck, inside the ship's engineering spaces, propulsion officers begin adjusting speed. The carrier increases power gradually, building momentum before beginning a course change. A carrier cannot turn like a destroyer. Every movement has to be deliberate and calculated. At 5:39, the acoustic picture suddenly erupts with energy. A sharp metallic echo cuts through the water. Then something starts moving fast, very fast, and the sonar operator's voice breaks the silence. Torpedo in the water. The words move through the CIC like a surge of electricity. In an instant, the entire strike group shifts into motion. There are no loud alarms, no chaos, just disciplined precision as dozens of systems activate at once. The carrier begins a controlled evasive turn. Its massive rudders push the ship into a wide arc through the narrow shipping lane. Escort destroyers deploy Nixie torpedo decoys, long cables trailing behind them as the devices slip into the water. Each decoy emits an acoustic signature designed to imitate the carrier's propellers. To a guided torpedo, it sounds like an even bigger target. Above the strike group, the MH-60R Seahawks react immediately. The nearest helicopter banks hard toward the northern contact. Onboard sensors lock onto the torpedo's path. Weapon confirmed. Below the surface, the torpedo cuts through the Gulf waters. Its propeller spins rapidly. Active sonar pulses outward as it searches. 540. Inside the CIC, the torpedo's acoustic signature grows stronger. The distance is closing. Then something shifts. The torpedo suddenly changes direction. It has locked onto the decoy. Behind the carrier, the Nixie system now broadcasts the strongest acoustic signal in the water. To the torpedo's sensors, the decoy has become the carrier. The weapon turns sharply. Seconds later, a violent underwater explosion erupts nearly a mile behind the strike group. The shockwave ripples across the surface. Inside the CIC, sonar displays flash bright with the energy spike, but the carrier remains untouched. The torpedo detonates harmlessly in the wake of the decoy. For a brief moment, silence returns. The first attack has failed. But something critical has changed. The submarines have revealed themselves. The ambush is no longer hidden. Now the strike group knows exactly where the threat is. 5:41. The tactical display updates instantly. The northern submarine, the one that launched the torpedo, is now exposed by the acoustic trail of its weapon. Helicopters adjust course without delay. The nearest MH-60R descends toward the contact. Its dipping sonar prepares for deployment. The aircraft slows into a hover, and a long cylindrical sensor lowers into the sea below. A sonar pulse spreads outward. Seconds later, the return signal paints a clear picture. Submarine depth, approximately 140 feet, speed increasing, attempting to withdraw. But the helicopter crew already knows what comes next. Inside the Seahawks weapons base sits a Mark 54 lightweight torpedo, designed specifically for tracking submarines in confined waters. 5:42. Back in the carrier's CIC, the commander watches the screen as the helicopters close in. The submarine fired first. Now the response is unavoidable. Once a torpedo enters the water, the underwater battle has begun. 5:44 local time, Strait of Hormuz. Above the northern contact, the MH-60R Seahawk holds a steady hover. Rotor wash tears across the surface, while the dipping sonar cable extends deep below, feeding a constant stream of data back to the aircraft. Inside the helicopter, the sonar operator studies the display. The submarine is still there, clear, moving, depth around 140 feet, speed increasing. The crew below knows they've been detected. They are trying to escape, but the helicopter already has a firing solution. The aircraft commander speaks calmly over the intercom. Contact confirmed, Fateh-class submarine. A brief pause. Weapon release. The Seahawk tilts slightly. A hatch opens beneath the fuselage. The torpedo drops. It enters the water cleanly, sinking for a moment as it stabilizes. Then its propulsion system ignites. The weapon accelerates forward, beginning its programmed search pattern. Inside the helicopter, the operator now tracks two moving signals. Submarine, torpedo, both racing through the same narrow stretch of ocean. 5:45. Below the surface, the submarine reacts immediately. Inside the vessel, the crew would have heard the launch within seconds. The echo of sonar pulses confirms what they already know. They've been found. Ballast tanks flood as the submarine dives deeper toward the seabed. A sharp course change follows. Electric motors push harder now, propellers cutting through the dense Gulf water. But the torpedo keeps coming. Modern anti-submarine torpedoes don't just move in straight lines. They listen, they adjust, they adapt. The Mark 54 sweeps through the water in tight arcs, its onboard sonar searching for the strongest acoustic signal. The submarine's propellers make that task easier. 546. Inside the Seahawk cockpit, the sensor operator leans forward. Target maneuvering. On the display, the submarine shifts sharply east. The torpedo reacts almost instantly, adjusting its heading to match. Two machines now race through the water, one hunting, one trying to escape. Back inside the carrier's CIC, the entire strike group watches the engagement unfold through real-time acoustic data. The submarine's escape path appears briefly, then begins to curve. The torpedo has reacquired the target. 547. Below the surface, the distance collapses rapidly. 500 yards, 400, 300. Inside the submarine, alarms would be echoing through the control room. The crew scrambles, changing depth, reducing speed, trying to blend into the seabed. But the Strait of Hormuz offers very little cover. The water is shallow, the seabed is flat, every mechanical sound carries, and the torpedo is closing fast. 548. Across the sonar displays, the two acoustic signatures merge. For a fraction of a second, everything goes quiet. Then the explosion hits. A powerful underwater blast surges through the acoustic spectrum. Sonar screens flash with the energy spike. The shockwave rolls through the water like distant thunder. Fragments scatter, then silence. The submarine's acoustic signature disappears completely. No propeller noise, no engine vibration, nothing. One submarine is gone from the display. Inside the Seahawk, the operator confirms calmly. Target lost, probable kill. The helicopter circles above the location, scanning for any remaining movement. The sonar returns only drifting debris. The Fateh-class submarine is no longer there. 550. Inside the CIC, the tactical map shifts again. The remaining 4 submarine contacts react immediately. Their formation breaks apart. The coordinated encirclement collapses within seconds. One Ghadir-class submarine turns sharply toward the Iranian coastline. Another dives deeper beneath the heavy tanker traffic in the shipping lanes. The second Fateh-class submarine slows dramatically, trying to disappear beneath the thermal layers. The hunters are now scattering. The element of surprise is gone. Across the water, helicopters, destroyers, and sonar buoys form a tightening network. Every submarine commander inside that grid understands the new situation. They are no longer surrounding the carrier. They are trying to survive. 5:52 local time. The shockwave fades, but the impact of the moment remains. Inside the CIC, the tactical display updates again. 5 contacts have become 4, and those 4 are moving very differently. The tight underwater circle that once surrounded the carrier is gone. Instead of closing in, the submarines are breaking away in separate directions. The ambush has failed. But the danger is not over. 4 submarines are still somewhere beneath the strike group, and in these shallow waters, even one can be a serious threat. 5:54. Above the water, the Seahawk that launched the torpedo continues circling the blast area. Its sonar sweeps outward again. Nothing, only debris, slowly sinking. The pilot reports calmly over the radio. Primary contact neutralized. Back on the carrier, the commander listens without visible reaction. Continue the search, because the situation isn't finished yet. 5:56. The second MH-60R Seahawk moves over the southern sector. Its crew begins deploying additional sonar buoys. Each one activates on contact with the water, sending acoustic data back through secure links. Within minutes, a wide underwater listening grid stretches across miles of ocean. The remaining submarines are now moving inside that grid, and they're becoming easier to track. One Ghadir-class submarine heads northeast, accelerating toward Iranian waters. Its small size and shallow depth make detection difficult at long range, but the buoy network begins picking up its electric motor. Another contact dives beneath a line of commercial oil tankers. The submarine is trying to blend into the noise created by massive cargo ships. It's a smart move, but it limits its ability to maneuver. Meanwhile, the second Fateh-class submarine slows almost to a crawl. Its propellers barely turn as it tries to disappear beneath the thermocline, using layered water temperatures to distort sonar signals. Inside the CIC, the anti-submarine warfare coordinator studies the map. They're running. The commander gives a slight nod. The moment that first torpedo detonated behind the carrier, the entire situation shifted. The submarines lost their biggest advantage: surprise. 6:02. One of the escort destroyers reports a brief visual sighting. A periscope wakes several miles ahead. Moments later, it disappears beneath the surface. But the sighting confirms something important. At least one submarine came dangerously close to the surface while attempting to escape. Helicopters redirect immediately. Sonar sweeps the area again, but the contact slips away, vanishing into the layered waters. 6:07. Another submarine slows near the Iranian coastline. Its course shifts again, then its signal fades as it moves into more complex underwater terrain near shore. The commander watches carefully. The submarines are retreating, not together, not in formation, just trying to get away. 6:12. One final contact briefly surfaces about 12 nautical miles from the carrier. A dark hull breaks through the water, a Ghadir-class submarine. Its conning tower rises for only a few seconds before the vessel turns toward the Iranian coast. A helicopter observes from above but does not engage. The submarine is no longer an immediate threat. For now, the confrontation is over. Inside the CIC, the tactical display gradually clears. One submarine destroyed. Two forced to withdraw, one lost in coastal waters, one slipping away among heavy shipping traffic. The carrier continues its steady course through the Strait of Hormuz. From the outside, nothing looks different. Deck crews move calmly across the flight deck. Radar antennas rotate slowly above the island. The ship appears exactly as it did an hour earlier, but everyone inside the strike group understands what just happened. 5 submarines attempted to surround a U.S. aircraft carrier in one of the most strategically sensitive waterways in the world. And for a brief moment, beneath those narrow waters, the situation came dangerously close to escalating into a major naval conflict. No missiles fired, no ships lost, but the boundary between deterrence and open conflict was tested. And in the quiet depths of the Strait of Hormuz, for now, that boundary held.